Today, Dr. Abhijit Sutradhar, Assistant Professor of our department, is going to give the talk on the topic an investigation of non-Newtonian blood flow in microvessels. And he has prepared only yesterday evening to deliver the talk today. So thank you, Dr. Abhijit. And sorry, your thesis. This is your thesis title.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
title is said, this is your thesis title. And so regarding Dr. Abhijit Sutradhar, just I'm saying a few lines. He has been awarded Dharanidhar Rai Medal for becoming the first class first in his BSc Mathematics honors from University of Burdan in 2008, and he completed his MSc from IIT Kharagpur in 2010. He has qualified CSIR UGC NET in 2019 and GATE in 2010. He has both pre-PhD and post-PhD teaching and research experience of over 5 years. And he has published around 10 research papers so far. So now I request Dr. Abhijit to start your talk on the topic that you have decided. So first you please speak the title of your topic today and then you can start. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for introducing me. And I'm going to deliver a talk on the topic magnetic drug targeting in microvessels. So I'm sharing the slide. Uh, is it visible?
Yeah.
The PPT?
Yeah. Yes, it
Yes,
is visible.
clearly visible.
Okay. So good afternoon to you all. Myself, Abhijit Sutradhar, uh, delivering a talk on the topic magnetic drug targeting in microvessels on the occasion of 6th Shiksha Anusandhan weekly academic lecture. Just a minute. Okay. So in order to discuss magnetic drug targeting in microvessels, uh, I need to briefly discuss the nature of blood flow. And in order to discuss the nature of blood, which is a complex kind of fluid and which can be described by non-Newtonian fluid, I shall or I must discuss briefly or introduce what is Newtonian and non-Newtonian fluid. Newtonian fluid uh, is such a fluid for which viscous stress or shear stress arising from its flow at every point are linearly proportional to the rate of change of deformation. We all know that fluid is such a substance which continuously deforms applied whenever shears little amount of or maybe minute amount of shear force is applied, fluid will continue to deform. And that is why measuring strain will be not sufficient. Measuring strain will be not sufficient. So in the case of fluid, we need to uh, discuss about rate of strain. So Hooke's law is similar to the Newton's law of viscosity. Hooke's law states that stress is proportional to strain for solid substances. Similarly, Newton's law of viscosity states that viscous stress or shear stress for fluid flow are linearly proportional to the rate of change of its deformation or rate of change or rate of strain. That is known as Newton's law of viscosity, and whichever fluid follow or obey Newton's law of viscosity are known as Newtonian fluid. For examples are water, honey, milk, gasoline, etc. And whichever fluids doesn't follow this Newton's law of viscosity means it maintains a nonlinear relationship between shear stress and shear strain rate are known as non-Newtonian fluid. And it produces an yield stress along its flow direction. Yield stress is such a stress which the fluid has to overcome. Otherwise, it will not flow. In order to flow, it has to overcome yield stress. And the constitutive equation of non-Newtonian fluid is given by this expression, where tau ij is stress tensor. It has 9 components. It is a symmetric matrix of which 6 components are independent. Similarly, gamma dot ij is also a symmetric matrix, is known as strain tensor. So specifically or basically, stress and strain relationship is described for a non-Newtonian fluid which is non-linear, and mu is apparent viscosity. So for Newtonian fluid, tau ij is proportional to or linearly proportional to gamma dot ij. So proportionality constant, that is mu, for example, will be called a constant viscosity, which is the property of Newtonian fluid. For non-Newtonian fluid, it will be a function of something, means something is that capital pi, which is another expression, rate of strain tensor invariant. So mu, which is proportionality constant, which should have been proportionality constant for Newtonian fluid, is no more constant for non-Newtonian fluid. It is apparent. It is called apparent viscosity, which is a function of capital pi. Examples are paints, varnish, polymer solution, etc. So that is about Newtonian and non-Newtonian fluid. And blood behaves as non-Newtonian fluid flowing through microvessels due to experiencing low shear rate. And what happens? We all know that red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets are the cell components of suspended in blood. Base fluid of blood is plasma. So what happens during blood flow in microvessel? I'm not talking about larger vessel or macro vessel. I'm talking about microvessel, means we are talking about here capillaries, venules, and arterioles in the circulatory system. So while flowing in the microvessel, red blood cells basically try to accumulate near the microvessel's axis. It has been observed. And cell-free plasma, the base fluid of the blood, tend to move away from the microvessel's axis towards the microvessel wall. So red blood cells accumulated in the axis of the microvessel forms a plaque region, and therefore it creates an yield stress, which the fluid has to overcome in order to flow. And it has been seen also that in the plaque region, fluid flow is almost uniform, or we can say mathematically, or we can assume mathematically that in the plaque region, fluid flow is uniform. And this is called peripheral region, in which plasma, cell-free plasma, flows around. So basically, microvessel can be blood flow in microvessel can be divided into two parts: plaque region, in which red blood cells accumulated flow exists, and cell-free plasma uh, outside the plaque region, which is called peripheral layer. And blood exhibits high static electrical conductivity, which is hematocrit and temperature dependent. Hematocrit, we all know that it is hemoglobin percentage in each red blood cell. So it is around 45%. Standard is 45%. Okay, and let us also know, let us have a knowledge about microvessel wall, the structure of microvessel wall. Microvessel wall consists of endothelial cells. Here is endothelial cells are constructing an endothelial layer, which is also covered with a gel-like glycocalyx layer. With a gel-like glycocalyx layer. So this glycocalyx layer is play the role of mediating the permeability of the microvessel, and it's like we can see here, it's here like a layer, and it is negatively charged. And due to negative charge of this glycocalyx layer, positive ions attracted by Coulomb's law of force is accumulated or peripheral, and these two layers, means negative ions added with positive ions, these two layers forms an electrical double layer. So this produces an electrostatic repulsion to the red blood cells. So also due to which electrostatic repulsion, creating that electrostatic repulsion, red blood cells tend to accumulate near the microvessel's axis. Okay. Now let us come to the magnetic drug targeting therapy. Proper way of mitigation in the treatment of cancer is still a great challenge. We have seen conventional therapies of drug injection into the bloodstream or oral application can have deleterious effect on healthy cells and tissues. So what is done in magnetic drug targeting therapy is that after detection of after detection of tumor inside the human body through any scan, MRI or CT scan, we push injection injected with dilute, suspended in dilute solution of these dots you can see here. These are drug carrier particles. So an injection is pushed into the body near the tumor location, suspended with drug carrier particles. Each drug carrier particle is shown here in in magnified version. So the core matrix of each drug carrier particle consists of magnetic nanoparticle and therapeutic agents and drugs coated with, the core matrix is coated with molecular targeting agent and polyethylene glycol to endorse its binding with the vascular network. So after these drug carrier particles are injected into the microvessel, a high gradient magnetic field, a cylindrical shape, is placed outside the body near the tumor or disease location, maybe any disease. So in order to attract these drug carrier particles, due to incorporating magnetic nanoparticles into the drug core matrix of drug carrier particle, magnetic field is will attract these drug carrier particles, and after deposition of drug carrier particles under suitable circumstances such as osmolality, pH, or temperature or enzymatic activities, etc., the drugs are disposed from these drug carrier particles and cures the tumor. So in this topic, or in this magnetic drug targeting therapy, one part involves in projecting how the drug carrier particles are projected onto the tumor, and second part is how the drug is disposed to cure the tumor. So we are investigating on the first part. We are finding how the drug carrier particles are projected or targeted onto the tumor location or disease location. And it has several advantages, such as it is non-invasive medication therapy, means it requires no surgery. An injection with drug carrier particles is sufficient. And second thing is that placing a magnetic field outside the human body. Second thing is that it has high targeting efficiency at specified location. And third advantage is that it reduces toxic side effects on healthy cells and tissues. There is another mechanism of magnetic targeting. After detection of tumor, high targeting high gradient magnetic field is placed outside the body. So obviously blood drag force will act in the horizontal direction, and magnetic force due to the magnetic field placed outside the body will act in the transverse direction. So due to these two major forces, this drug carrier particle is deposited at the disease location. So this is the mechanism, and here it is endothelial layer, and outside the blood vessel, tissue region will be obviously there. And we are considering here a fully developed blood flow with blunted velocity profile. If we would have considered blood as Newtonian fluid, this velocity profile means after plotting the graph, after plotting the velocity of blood with respect to time.
Go to next slide, sir.
Which slide you can see now?
Slide number 5, I think.
Figure you can see?
Yes, sir. Figure is visible. Are you describing slide number 5, MDT, or
mechanism of MDT?
No, sir. The slide which is showing here is magnetic drug targeting, MDT, not mechanism. Now it is visible, sir.
Now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So due to the presence of high targeting, a high gradient magnetic field outside the body, it is showing here outside the body we are keeping high gradient magnetic field, and we are pushing the drug carrier particle here into the microvessel, just onto the surface, just to the surface of the microvessel wall, and blood drag force acts on it along the horizontal direction, and magnetic force acts along the transverse direction. So due to these two major forces, this drug carrier particle is deposited onto the disease location. So, and we are considering fully developed blood flow with blunted velocity profile. So if we have considered Newtonian nature of blood, and we would have plotted the velocity profile, means velocity of blood with respect to time, then velocity profile or velocity graph would have been parabolic, exactly parabolic. And due to the consideration of non-Newtonian nature, I have already discussed that due to the non-nutrient nature, and also biophysically due to the flow of red blood cells along the microvessels axis. It forms a plaque region, and in the plaque region an yield stress is generated. So uniform flow is there, due to which blunted shape or straight line is observed. So it is called blunted profile, blunted velocity profile in the parabolic shape. Okay. So this is the mechanism. Other forces or other factors which may affect the carrier particle trajectory are inertia, that is mass of the carrier particle times its acceleration, buoyancy of the carrier particle, thermal kinetics due to Brownian motion, particle blood cell interactions, and interparticle effects such as magnetic dipole interactions, in electrical double layer interaction, which is generated due to glycocalyx layer, uh, and van der Waals force. So we are motivated to study the considering the buoyant force due to the drug carrier particle. So if we are considering the buoyant force, mass of the drug carrier particle also becomes important, and consequently inertia term, means mass into acceleration of the drug carrier particle, becomes most important in the equation of motion of the drug carrier particle, as well as effective density. Effective density.
Dr.
Yes,
Sutrada,
sir.
your slide is moving. Slide,
Uh,
see? Ah,
is it visible?
I,
And we have considered blood flow, already considered blood flow nature in non-Newtonian kind of in microvessels, and which is conformable or suitable by Herschel-Buckley or Casson model, and it is established by Merrill, the experimental study by Merrill. So it depends on the radius of the microvessel. If the radius of the microvessel is in between, I think 10 to 100 micrometer, then it is Herschel-Buckley non-Newtonian nature is suitable to blood flow. And if it is 130 to 1300 micrometer, then Casson model is suitable. Is the next slide can be seen? Physical model of MDT.
no, it's not moving, I think.
Okay, I shall stop sharing and
Okay, that will
sharing
be.
it. Is it visible?
Yeah, visible.
Is the next slide visible? Equation of motion of the carrier particle.
No. This is physical model of next
Okay,
slide.
is it visible?
Physical model.
Yes.
Yeah.
Equation
Yeah,
of the
equation, yes. Yes.
okay, and the Herschel-Buckley model.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So physical model of magnetic targeting, which we have considered here in this study. So we have considered steady and fully developed blood flow in microvessel, axisymmetric microvessel, and particle fluid interaction and interparticle effects are neglected. So particle fluid interaction means there might be a possible collision or interaction with the drug carrier particle and red blood cells or white blood cells or platelets. So we are neglecting those cases. We are presenting the simple case here. This slide or this work I'm presenting for the simplest case of magnetic drug targeting. There exist many complicated cases, or many complicated models are also existing in the literature. But for the understanding of larger community of the audience, I'm explaining the simplest case or simplest model of magnetic drug targeting. So there might be many possible complications which may arise due to during this drug targeting via this drug carrier particle. So those things, collisions, interparticle effects, we are neglecting, and constant pressure gradient we are considering, as there is no convection in transverse direction. And microvessel wall is impermeable. There also exist studies which are considering permeable microvessel wall, and I have already discussed that if we consider the permeability of the microvessel wall, glycocalyx layer and endothelial layer will play a huge role into the biophysics or disturbance of the biophysics or equilibrium of biophysics in this magnetic drug targeting therapy. So we are considering here microvessel wall as impermeable and non-absorbent for the neighboring tissues, and blood is regarded as non-magnetic with the permeability as that of air. Many are considering magnetohydrodynamic case, considering the electrical conductivity of the blood flow, and due to which Lorentz force is generated in the flow field. So we are neglecting that case. Also, magnetic Reynolds number may be occurring, but those are very negligible quantity. In microvessel means we are considering either capillary or arterial or venule. In microvessels, this kind of magnetic effect will be very much negligible. So in order to discuss the physical model, RV is the radius of the cylindrical vessel, and VF is the velocity of the blood, of which blunted velocity profile can be seen due to the plug region and due to the yield stress, generated yield stress. VCP is the volume of the carrier particle. Axial direction we are considering as z-axis, and transverse direction as x-axis, or if we consider the same geometry can be considered as r theta z plane, r theta z coordinates, means cylindrical coordinate system. So considering the axisymmetry condition, which we have already considered, theta derivative with respect to theta can be neglected. So finally it will be r axis and z axis, and d is the distance between microvessel's axis to the center of the magnet, cylindrical magnet, which is positioned outside the body. Okay. So equation of the carrier particle or drug carrier particle, which is simply Newton's second law of motion. Newton's second law of motion is rate of linear momentum is sum by is equated to all forces. So rate of linear momentum is nothing but mass into acceleration. Considering that mass is constant, of the carrier particle. Obviously, mass is constant of the carrier particle. So here we have considered on the right hand side fluidic force and magnetic force. These are the two major forces, and buoyant force also we have considered. So other authors earlier they have considered like fluidic force plus magnetic force equated to or approximated to zero vector, neglecting this acceleration. So here we have considered acceleration times mass means inertia plus buoyancy. Okay, so in order to investigate how much it will affect if we consider inertia and buoyancy along with these two major forces on the drag carrier particle. So mass, we know density times volume of the carrier particle. Density, we have explained the density in such a way like this is the carrier particle density. It is summed out like density of the carrier, density of the magnetic nanoparticle and density of the drugs. So if density of nanoparticle is rho p and beta Vf is the volume fraction of magnetic nanoparticles incorporated into the drug carrier particles. So if we recall the this figure, so magnetic nanoparticles are included or incorporated into this bigger core matrix. So here drugs and magnetic nanoparticles both are incorporated. So both have volume fractions. So if we assume beta Vf is the volume fraction of magnetic nanoparticles, so 1 minus beta Vf is the volume fraction of drugs. So density or effective density of the carrier particle, we can write like beta Vf times the density of the nanoparticles plus 1 minus beta Vf times the density of the drugs. And velocity, relative velocity of the carrier particles, which subjected to the blood flow. So there will be no blood flow in the transverse direction. There is the only blood flow in the horizontal direction along the z-axis. So we have to consider the relative velocity. Now, coming to the non-Newtonian model, which we are considering flawed blood flow. Here, the shear stress component for Herschel-Blackler fluid is written like tau xz, means only we have considered the simplest version of shear stress component, means in shear stress matrix 9 components would be there, among which 6 components would be independent. In microvessel, only one component will be much more dominating in nature. Other components would be negligible. In macrovessel flow, all dimensional or directional or all directional shear stress components would exist. But in microvessel flow, only one directional shear stress would be enough, would be sufficient to consider. So how we are describing this shear stress component? This shear stress component would be equated to yield stress until and unless the fluid can exceed the yield stress. After the fluid or the shear stress of the fluid or viscous stress of the fluid can exceed the yield stress, it is described by this, the shear stress or the viscous stress of the fluid is described by this expression, nonlinear expression. So let us see into it. For n equals to 1, this n is Herschel-Buckley index, called Herschel-Buckley index, and tau I is yield stress. Eta is effective viscosity of the Herschel-Buckley fluid, and Vf is the velocity of blood. So if n equals to 1 and tau I equals to 0, means yield stress is 0. There is no yield stress, there is no plug region. So in that case, tau xz would be equals to minus eta dvf by dr, simply, to the power 1 plus 0. So that is known as, or that is the constitutive equation of Newtonian fluid. That is the constitutive equation of Newtonian fluid for n equals to 1 and tau I equals to 0. So shear stress is proportional to shear strain rate. For tau I equals to 0 and n not equals to 1, or maybe n equals to 1, n greater than 1, n less than 1, n can never be 0. If tau I equals to 0, then it represents power law model. And if n equals to 1 and tau I is non-zero, then it represents, or it is known as Bingham model. So there exist different models, and for n greater than 1 and n less than 1, we can plot this, or we can see these graphs. For n greater than 1, this graph is plotted. This is known as dilatant nature or shear thickening nature of maybe Bingham fluid. This is for Bingham fluid. This is for power law fluid, and this is for Bingham fluid. So if tau I is non-zero, means tau I is this. Tau I is this height along y direction. So if tau I is non-zero, then it represents Bingham model. So if for n equals to 1, this is known as Bingham model or Bingham plastic model. For n less than 1, this is known as Bingham pseudoplastic. So like this. So basically, for n greater than 1, this is known as dilatant nature of the fluid or shear thickening nature. And for n less than 1, it represents pseudoplastic or shear thinning nature. What is shear thinning and shear thickening? One definition I will explain. Shear thickening nature can be seen when viscous stresses or viscosity increases as with the increment of shear stress. So that is known as shear thickening fluid. So from Herschel-Buckley model, we can see now power law model, Newtonian model. First of all, Newtonian model, power law model, Bingham model. Many model can be seen, or many model can be particularized. So in a way, we can say that Herschel-Buckley model is a collection of three kind of model: Newtonian, power law, and Bingham, and more general. Okay. So we move forward. We have considered simplest version of momentum equation. Momentum equation, here it is pressure gradient, which is constant, as there is no convection along the transverse direction, and this is the diffusion part, subject to the boundary conditions. Boundary conditions we are imposing, like shear stress is finite along the microvessels axis, and there is no slip velocity, means blood velocity is 0 at the microvessel wall. So this equation we are solving subject to the two boundary conditions, and we are obtaining velocity of blood. Here RC is the radius of the core region or radius of the plug region, whatever you say. And xi c is RC by RV. RV is the radius of the microvessel and RC is the radius of the core region. So xi c is a rheological parameter. And from the velocity of blood, average velocity of blood can be calculated from the volumetric flux. So in this part only, fluid dynamics play a role and hydrostatics is being discussed. Now the velocity of blood will be incorporated or will be used in fluidic force, which is important. There are two major forces, fluidic force. There are two major forces on carrier particle, fluidic force, magnetic force. So one force is fluidic force, which we have to calculate. So in order to calculate the fluidic force, we have to calculate we have to find out the velocity of blood for Herschel-Buckley model or for the non-Newtonian model which we are considering. So here we can see the average velocity of blood is considered. These components are given by Atabattu et al. In 1995, from which we have taken. So in order to put these fluidic force components into the equation of motion, that is Newton's second law of motion, we have to find this velocity of blood, which can be found from momentum equation with the help of hydrostatics concept. Similarly, for if we consider the Casson model of for blood flow in microvessel, so stress component for Casson model can be explained by this nonlinear expression. Similar thing, until and unless yield stress is crossed by the fluid, shear stress is equated by as the yield stress. Otherwise, or whenever yield stress is crossed by the fluid, so it is expressed by this nonlinear expression. And here, from here also, Newtonian fluid can be extracted when tau I yield stress is 0. Carefully please see, tau xz is equals to minus eta dV by dr. So it reduces to Newtonian model then. Same governing, same momentum equation is considered subject to the same boundary conditions. Similarly, velocity of blood and average velocity of blood is obtained. And Atabattu et al. Has given the fluidic force component for Casson, fluidic force components for Casson fluid for spherical carrier particle. For other shapes of carrier particle, it would be different. For spherical carrier particle, it is this expression. And lastly, secondly, magnetic force. Magnetic force components are also found from the paper Orlini and NG, which is independent of blood velocity. It is containing the parameters like permeability of the air, mu naught, beta Vf, the volume fraction of the nanoparticles, volume of the carrier particle, ms. Ms is the magnetization of the field, and Rm, the radius of the cylindrical magnet, xi mp, the susceptibility of magnetic nanoparticles, d, the distance between microvessel and cylindrical magnet, and the coordinate z. So third is buoyant force. So buoyant force components are also given in the paper Sharma et al., which we have written here. So here it will be also independent of blood velocity. VCP is the velocity, the volume of the carrier particle. Rho Cp is the effective density of the carrier particle. Rho F is the fluidic density, and G is the gravitational acceleration. So substituting this fluidic force, magnetic force, and buoyant force components into the main equation of motion of the carrier particle, we found this second order simultaneous nonlinear ordinary differential equations, which are coupled. So let us see here how these are coupled. This is VCPX. VCPX means dx by dt, velocity along the x direction. VCPZ, velocity along the z direction, dz by dt. So VCPX, if we substitute here, it will be ultimately d2x by dt2. So, sorry, second order ordinary differential equation, and it is an equation in x, and here z, the term is, this term is involving z. So these are highly coupled. Similarly, reduced equations for Casson model also are substituted and found this. So both both set of equation for Herschel-Berkeley model and Casson model are solved by this numerical process of fourth order Runge-Kutta method in order to find the trajectory of the carrier particle xz. Xz both are dependent on t, time, and it is initial conditions are required. Initial conditions are required. 4 initial conditions are required. So this equation has second order, and this equation has second order. So total order of the system of the equations are 4. So 4 initial conditions are required to solve this set of equations, set of simultaneous ordinary differential equation. So initial conditions are chosen like the carrier particle is injected from here, suppose either from here or from here onto the microvessel wall. From microvessel wall far away from the tumor. So if it is injected from here, suppose I'm pointing the cursor here. If the carrier particle starting from here and near the placement or position of the magnet, suppose the tumor is located. Tumor is located here. So we are injecting from here the magnetic, drug carrier particle, and it is traversing up onto this direction. So x0, the initial position, x directional position of the drug carrier particle is RV, radius of the microvessel. Z0 is minus 4 rm. This is, if we consider as this, suppose positive direction of rm plus rm, so this will be minus rm. So this can be minus 3 rm or minus 5 rm. We have taken minus 4 rm. And VC x directional initial velocity is 0. Obviously, x directional initial velocity is 0, and x directional, z directional initial velocity we are equated with average velocity of blood. Average velocity of blood. So with the help of these 4 initial conditions, we'll be solving this set of simultaneous equation. We have validated our result by Sharma et al. So when beta VF, Sharma et al. Studied with a magnetic nanoparticle, instead of we are discussing with a drug carrier particle into which magnetic nanoparticles are incorporated. So they have considered whole nanoparticle. So if we consider beta VF 100, the volume fraction of nanoparticles as 100%, then carrier particle will be reduced to a magnetic nanoparticle. Then we can equate the case with Sharma et al. And inertia term was absent, and blood they have considered as Newtonian fluid. So in case of Herschel-Berkeley fluid, we can consider n equals to 1 and tau equals to 0. And for Casson fluid, we can consider tau I equals to 0. In both cases, our result converts into Newtonian nature. So we can see that it gives a good result. So these are the parameters which we have considered in this study. Now, let me explain how it is working. Suppose this is -1 to 1. So this x-axis is this one, and suppose this is lower wall and this is upper wall. There is only one wall of the microvessel. If we would have considered a channel, there would have been upper wall and lower wall. But also this is suppose minus RB and this is plus RB, and we have non-dimensionalized the parameters or the variables. Sorry. So between -1 to 1, we are investigating, and suppose along the x-axis, in between the interval -1 to 1, the tumor is located. So this is the trajectories of the drug carrier particle. So we can see for n equals to 1 means for Newtonian fluid or Bingham plastic fluid, this drug carrier particles is targeted in effective way. And as the Herschel-Berkeley flow index moves from n less than 1 to n greater than 1. N less than 1 means shear thinning nature, n greater than 1 means shear thickening nature. So as we move from shear thinning nature to shear thickening nature, the drug carrier particle is trajected efficiently or effectively. Okay. Here is another plot is exhibited when we are injecting from different locations. So if we are injecting from RV or 0.6 into RV, 0.2 into RV, minus 0.2 into RV. So from different locations, it is shown. So still here we can see also that for n equals to 1, for that is for Newtonian fluid or Bingham plastic fluid, the effective targeting is reached onto the tumor location. The role of volume fraction of magnetic nanoparticles. We can think logically, if we think that if beta VF increase means magnetic nanoparticles volume fraction increase inside the carrier particle. Magnetic nanoparticles percentage or volume fraction increase inside the carrier particle. Obviously, those will be drug carrier particle will be better attracted by the magnetic field. So better targeting will be reached. So we can see here 20%, 60%. So 60% graphs with the 60% graphs are red color graphs are effectively targeted. Okay. Density, effect of density therapeutics. So drugs density also matters in this case. So here we can see that if we are increasing the drug density, efficacy of targeting weakening or it is decreasing. And analysis of distance of uh, magnet from the microvessel. So distance d, that was the distance from the magnet to the microvessels. So we can see here uh, for 4.55 centimeter, 5.5 and 6.5. So up to 5.5 centimeter, it is fine. The carrier particles are somehow captured. But whenever we are seeing for 6.5 centimeter, and that too for shear thinning fluid. Shear thinning fluid means uh, viscosity will be less effective in contrast to uh, shear stress. So in that case, the drug carrier particle is flowing freely with the blood flow. So it is moved away from the targeted region from 6.5 centimeter. And a comparison is drawn uh, of Casson fluid and Herschel-Buckley fluid. For which kind of fluid, for which kind of non-Newtonian nature of blood, we can efficiently capture the drug carrier particle. So we can see here that for Casson fluid, we can capture the particle better rather than Herschel-Buckley fluid. And here, inertia and buoyancy also we have investigated. So we have incorporated in the equation of motion, we have incorporated extra are inertia and buoyancy. So those two were extra in our cases. So inertia and buoyancy and are absent. In that case, the particle is trying to move away, tending to move away from the targeted region. In other cases, when one of those at least are present or both are present, inertia or buoyancy, the targeting becomes efficient. These are the same graphs for the comparison model when inertia buoyant present and when inertia buoyant absent. So I'm explaining one graph when inertia and buoyant present. So we can see here drug carrier particles are captured or better captured. When both are absent, this drug carrier particle try to move away from the targeted region. So let me conclude here the results that less amount, we have seen that less amount of magnetic strength is required to capture the carrier particle in the presence of buoyant force and inertia compared to the other studies, earlier studies. And capturing the carrier particle becomes stronger when the blood alters its nature from shear thinning to shear thickening. And as the drug density inside the carrier particle decreases, the efficacy of the carrier particle increases. And particle capturing becomes easier or smoother in Casson fluid rather than Herschel-Buckley fluid under similar circumstances or conditions. So related publications due to this study are these two research papers. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Any questions from the participants?
Yeah, Dr. Abhijit,
Yes, sir.
I do not belong to your area, so but it is totally a physical kind of thing that I understand. But and in my area, how can we drag this problem into my area? That is my question. Statistics. How to drag this problem into statistics? Can you have some haste so that we can drag this problem into that? Can we
Yes.
have some randomness and anything of this sort? Everyone
Yes.
had asking.
Yes, sir. Yes. So the simplest version or simplest model of magnetic drug targeting I have presented here. There exist many far complicated models. I was already saying far complicated models, one of which include stochastic process or stochastic modeling of this drug carrier particle. So here in this study or in those two papers, in those two papers, research papers, we have considered single drug carrier particle, injecting a single drug carrier particle. If we consider, instead of considering a single drug carrier particle, if we consider many drug carrier particles, then stochastic study is required. Stochastic study is required, and
That means
on that part,
stochastic
yeah,
process will be required.
yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay. Thank you, thank you.
Stochastic study is required. Otherwise, this kind of study would be sufficient,
Oh,
because
so
collisions of
if,
drug carrier particles
uh,
will we have to consider.
if you say some papers, we will read it using those stochastic behaviors.
Uh, yeah, I will share you, sir.
We talk to you in the
I will
department.
share you. Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. I will share you first. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other
Okay,
question?
anyone else? So I don't think anyone else has any questions. Anyway, so thank you, Dr. Abhijit. Actually, with a very short span, you could get yourself prepared to deliver this talk today. And
Thank
because
you.
yesterday evening only you could inform me that our pre-assigned speaker is ill, and that's why he's sick actually, maybe
Yes.
due to corona or whatever it may be. So after that, you get only very few time to deliver this talk and for preparation of it. Anyway, thank you so much. I thank all
Thank
the
you.
participants for today's webinar. Okay, and we must thank because these things are very helpful to all of us because we are in teaching line to discuss and share the work done by one person among others. So all these on the background of all this story of webinar, let us thank our president, Professor Manoj Ranjan Naik. So thank you everyone. Thank you, Abhijit.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Thank
all.
you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.